Just again, as I said last night, there's really nothing that's changed. Nobody really just got hurt. Pharaoh, we'll just kind of see where he's at this week. Whether he plays or not this week, we're not really sure yet. We'll just take it day to day with him. Same thing with Tyrod. We'll just kind of see where he's at on Wednesday. He practiced last week. He'll practice this week. And then, maybe by the end of the week, we'll have a little idea of what we think.
Do you expect him to take the first team reps in practice this week? Or
Well, he took some first team reps last week. He took those same reps last week, so he'll do the same thing this week.
Now, did you expect you guys to be active by the trade deadline?
That's up to Nick.
But you're involved, right?
I am involved, but right now my most important thing is just figuring out how to way to get that next win.
What is your involvement like? What do you say at this point?
Well, whenever Nick talks to people or whenever things happen, we have a conversation about it. I haven't had any conversations with him right now.
Brandon talked yesterday about the conversation you guys had and about him staying positive and being a leader. How important is it for people like that to stay positive and focused right now?
Chris, it's very important. And again, when you lose a guy like that's been one of those guys in this locker room that there's so much respect for, Brandon is one left, and there's more in there. But when you lose a guy like that, and you're going through what we're going through right now, those guys are invaluable. And for him to feel the way he felt, again, when he said what he said about when Mark was traded, it was an emotional thing, not really knowing the situation. Once he found out the situation, he understood completely. And I think our entire football team felt that way. And moving forward, right now, I know you mentioned about the trade deadline. I don't even think about the trade deadline. Only time I think about it is when it's mentioned to me.
John Grenard was talking to us yesterday about the run attack from the Rams, how you guys run it over front and they find that spot right where that the available gap there. Whenever you notice that they're attacking that time after time, how do you adapt to that? Do you notice that in your own game?
Brooke, what happened was is that we weren't staying in our gaps. When we stay in our gaps and we're playing gap control, those things don't happen. There were times when they got some big plays on the runs early in the game. We weren't in our gaps. We didn't get off blocks. And unfortunately, this past game was probably the toughest game our defensive front had this year. We didn't play as well as we had played in the past as a group. And it showed in the run game. And why? I don't know. But we did not play as well as we had been playing up until this point.
Justin McCray, how did you think he did now that you've watched it? You've had a couple starts with him now at center.
Well, I think, I don't want to just single out him, but I just think that overall, offensively, our up front people, we didn't play very well the whole ball game. We didn't play very well at all. And we got to play better. We got to coach it better. We got to play better. And it was one of those games where, when we can't run the ball the way we need to run the ball, it all starts up front.
Jacob, when you discipline a guy like King, did you talk to him about it and tell him what he needs to do to be able to come back? And will King come back this week?
We do talk about it. All that stuff is always internal between me and the person that is that away. And then we'll make a decision on that as we move forward.
David, when you now you're 8 weeks into this, or 7, 8 weeks into the season, and you talk about things like whether it's a penalty or not being in the right place, what has to happen? I know you said it has to be coaching better, but what at this point? Is it execution? What?
We keep. You just said another word there that's been our issue, other than the penalties, is the execution part of it. I'm talking about from offense, defense, and special teams. Just like yesterday, for example, there's no reason for us to not make that field goal that we make. He's got to make that field goal. In those type situations. Obviously, I know what the score was, but going into half, we felt like there was momentum. Our offense did a great job of putting us in position to do that. And then to go in at halftime, I know I didn't feel it in the dressing room at halftime about talking about execution and momentum, but I knew it was there. I knew it was there. And then when you come back out the second half and you go 3 and out, and then all of a sudden again you don't get that momentum that you feel like you get when you do, you execute. And that was simply a case of just us not executing what we needed to do.
David, do you feel like that you're focused on Miami, but there's a lot of talk about the trade deadline and players see Ingram go to the Saints and help them beat the Buccaneers. Do you think it's a distraction for your players?
I hope it's not, John. I haven't felt it being a distraction. Part of that may be because, my focus is always only on who we're playing next and those players. And in our meetings, everything we do, that's all we talk about. And that's all in our dressing room. When I'm in there, that's all I feel is the fact that the most important thing is the opponent that's coming up. Is it there? I'm sure it's there.
Your offense didn't really find any success till the fourth quarter when obviously things were kind of desperate. You talk a lot about Davis's foremost priority needing to be managing turnovers, but how do you balance kind of helping it make sure that he prevents turnovers and stays kind of conservative from maybe totally removing all aggression to the point that it's hard for the offense to move the ball?
Well, Aaron, this is what's happened with him is that he is so conscious now of making sure he's protecting the football. I thought yesterday, other than the one bad throw that he made, he's done that. And he's doing that, But basically, the way we do things and the way we're calling the game, I mean, we're doing things the same. It's just that he's doing what he needs to do. Yesterday, we did not play very good football at all in any phase. And when that happens, then it doesn't matter what we do.
I guess I struggle to, doesn't the quarterback need to do more if your team goes 12-plus quarters without scoring a touchdown?
Well, it ain't just about the quarterback. It's about our entire offensive football team needs to do better. Our defense needs to do better. Our special teams need to do better, and we need to coach better. I mean, it's not just him. He's not, he touches the ball, but he's not the guy that's responsible for everything that's happened. He's responsible for getting it going. And everybody has to do their job to get that going. And we haven't done that. We haven't done a good job of coaching that and getting that done. And we're going to continue to do that.
You attempt a lot of field goals, but
When you talk to your team after, as the losses pile up, does the message change, or is it kind of the same thing that you've been saying all year?
The message does not change. The process does not change. Is it frustrating? As I said last night, yes, it's frustrating. But the message does not change. We look at the video, we look at it, we correct it, and we come out the next day, we come in practice, and then we correct those things, and we move forward. And we forget about what happened in the past. It's all about moving forward.
Where's Laramie Tunsil in his recovery? When do you think he might come back?
I'm not real sure, but I think he's getting close to being able to get back.
Kaimi Fairburn with the missed field goal.
I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't.
With Kaimi Fairburn and the missed field goal, what did you guys see when you reviewed his approach, everything that went into missing the kick? And is there a concern he's had a few missed kicks this year?
It's not a concern, but his job is to kick those and make those, and he's making them in practice. He hasn't had a whole bunch of situations to be able to kick PATs and field goals, which I wish we had more. But when he does get the opportunity, he's got to make those, and he didn't make those. He didn't do that yesterday.
On a personal level, if this team is able to move on from Deshaun tomorrow, would you feel a little bit disappointed that he never gave this team an opportunity, especially how adamant you guys were when you first got hired?
No comment on that.
David, you've been associated with a lot of teams that were successful. Have you been on a team that had a record this bad to draw from experience?
I have. I've been on a couple of teams like this. I was on a team in Tampa Bay Buccaneers my first year in this league that, we ended up 7-8 when, we hadn't won very many ball games, but we stayed the course, In Philly, early in Philly when we first got there, we went through this. And basically the very first year when we were there, it was kind of similar to what we're going through right here. And then, we end up at the end of the year finding some wins. And when you're establishing a culture, winning is important. Winning is important in a culture. And, basically we're taking it one game at a time right now. And basically when we get that first win and that next win, then we just keep moving from there.
David, a couple questions about the trade deadline tomorrow, but, in the past you've talked about rotating players and trying to find someone and see if that's there. I mean, to be the competitive team you want to be, are the players that are on the roster the team that can do it, or are there players off the roster?
No, the players on the roster are good enough to do competitively what we need to do. We have not done a good enough job of, first of all, putting them in position consistently to do that and coaching it to do that. But, yes, they are here on this football team.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.